The economy is the backbone of any nation as it involves concerted economic activities geared towards national development. Equipment leasing involves a financial arrangement between a business or individual known as the lessee who rents equipment or assets from a leasing company, otherwise referred to as a lessor, for a specified period of time. Equipment leasing in Nigeria has experienced significant growth in recent years, but it is surrounded by a number of challenges hampering its operation in Nigeria. This is the focus on this episode of Frontiers. I am Frama Panyi. Our guest is Dr. Emmanuel Metwagan, Director, Planning, Strategy and Coordination, Equipment Leasing Registration Authority. Glad to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
We will be right back after this excerpt.
A nation's economy is more than its currency, banks, or stock market. It is a nation's very lifeblood, so says an American businessman and author, Robert Kiyosaki. In today's fast-paced business environment, companies are constantly seeking innovative ways to stay competitive and drive growth. One strategy that is gaining popularity in recent years is equipment leasing. This financing option allows businesses to acquire the equipment they need to operate and expand without the hefty upfront costs associated with purchasing them. In Nigeria, it is gaining more ground. Equipment leasing offers numerous benefits, including reduced capital expenditures and increased flexibility. By leasing equipment, businesses conserve capital for other critical expenses, such as hiring staff or investing in research and development. Additionally, leasing agreements often include maintenance and repair provisions, which can help minimize downtime and ensure that equipment is always in good working condition. By providing access to necessary equipment without the burden of upfront costs, leasing can help companies stay competitive, improve efficiency, and drive success.
Once more, you're welcome. Now let's get straight into the business as to why we have you here with us. How does equipment leasing benefit businesses in Nigeria, particularly SMEs?
Incidentally, in Nigeria today, we are beginning to get what the world or the Western world have been having. SMEs have been impeded, their growth have been impeded by the fact that they have not had access to leasing. The question is, how is it affecting, how is it going to help them to grow? Well, incidentally, SMEs have problems with access to capital. So, what the leasing will do is to help in ensuring that SMEs have access to this capital without having to break the bank. An industry that is into food production will require much fund to buy state-of-the-art equipment. But with leasing, you don't need to look for such fund. So you now have these equipments without having to pay upfront. It conserves funds for you to do your activities. That's one. Number two, it also helps for easier financing and credit access.
Okay.
Because traditionally, loans are not easy for SMEs to obtain because of the requirements. But with leasing, SMEs are assessed by what they are doing, not with their credit records. So they don't need to have that much fund or have strong credit record to have access to leasing. Then technology advancement and productivity. Today, most industries are operating with equipment that are obsolete, very old equipments that are not state-of-the-art and they are not modern. That's why production is relatively very low. But with leasing, they will have this access to equipments that are modern, with high productivity. Impliedly, once you have an access to the leasing window, you have state-of-the-art technology to run with. Then we talk about tax and accounting advantages. In leasing may be taken as an operational expenses. It's considered as operational expenses in Nigerian tax laws. You don't need to assess them and tax them accordingly.
Okay.
So the Nigerian tax system provides for where you have access to this equipment without the tax component of it. That's another one. The risk mitigation and maintenance benefit. Having an equipment in your premises, one, there's risk. The risk is for theft, fire, etc. But most leasing windows come with insurance policies. So that one is protected. However, for maintenance, some leasing window provides for maintenance. So it is the OEM or the lessor that ensures that the maintenance is done. So all you need to do is to face production. It increases productivity. Then again, the leasing window supports sectorial growth. Take agriculture, for example. Why is Nigeria not running with other nations on agriculture? The national food security problem in this country is tied strongly to the fact that the farmers do not have access to leasing. If you look at the agri sector and what the Niger state government is doing, Kebbi state government, and even the military is proposing one, there's a way that they are going about it to ensure that the leasing window is explored for agriculture, so that it is not just the owner of the equipment, or it's not just the lessor that would give it to a lessee and only the lessee will use it. What will happen is that all the agro companies, all the farmers that are located within that area can access this equipment through that window. Let me give you a scenario. I have a friend who is into boot shoe production for the military and paramilitary.
Okay.
Before COVID, he was doing very low scale. He was producing about 300 boots a day or so. But when COVID came and there was need for the Nigerian government to look inwards, what the guy did was to explore the leasing window and brought in, exploring the cross-border leasing window, brought in equipment. What did the equipment do? It increased production. He could do as much as 1,500 boots today, and the military is relying very much on him for supplies. That is the kind of thing that leasing can do. And they encourage formalization, because once you go into leasing, there are documentations. So if you have a business that has not been formalized, with the leasing window documentations with an agency like ERA, it gives you that the fact that your company is formally registered. So it encourages formalization.
Okay.
And creates job and economic growth.
Right. Now, Doctor, how can equipment leasing companies in Nigeria navigate the complex regulatory environment and ensure compliance with relevant laws and regulations?
What this government has done is to take some giant feet to ensure that laws are complied with. For the leasing sector, the Equipment Leasing Act itself is one that every lessor or lessee must comply with. So what would they do? They need to familiarize themselves with the operational laws in Nigeria. The ground norm of all the laws is the CAMA, the Company and Allied Matters Act. That ensures that every company is registered. Then you talk about the CBN guideline, FRS Act and all that. So that is the beginning for compliance on legal laws, on legal aspects, Then we have now with ERA, which is the Equipment Leasing Registration Authority. you have now what we call a register.
Okay.
One of the mandates of ERA is to register lease agreements. In the course of registration, the laws and everything will be protected. So they have to also maintain tax compliance and reporting standards. One thing that is happening to us in Nigeria is the fact that we have failed in various ways. Not only to ensure that we comply with the laws, which for now in the leasing sector will be done, but the use of professionals. So every industry player in the leasing sector should ensure that in maintaining its tax compliance, they engage the right professionals. Then again, they have to also ensure that there's due diligence, ensure that will check risk management and all that. So for you to engage a lessee or lease out your equipment to a lessee, you must conduct due diligence on the company. It's like knowing your customer, you know, which is the standard practice in every. And of course, insurance, you ensure that the equipment is insured.
Okay.
Then you engage with regulatory bodies. What are the regulatory bodies? ERA is at the forefront of regulatory bodies in Nigeria in leasing today, because it cuts across sectors. So if anybody wants to ensure that it's in compliance with the Leasing Act and the laws of Nigeria, that person or that organization must work in tandem with the provisions of the Equipment Leasing Act 2015.
Okay. Now, what innovative financing models or products can equipment leasing companies in Nigeria offer to attract more customers?
Well, to attract more customers, small, medium enterprises in equipment leasing in Nigeria must adopt innovative financing models.
Okay.
And develop products that reduce barriers to access, enhance value, and promote business growth. One major window that can be adopted or model is the pay-as-you-go, pay-as-you-use model. The usage is based on leasing too. What is that model targeted at? Lessees pay based on usage. As you are using, they will check it according to per kilometer, per hour, and the output.
Okay.
And that is for like agriculture, because it will be foolhardy for a farmer. You know, farming runs in season.
Yes.
For a farmer to lease a tractor and keep it on ground. So that's where the pay-as-you-lease model comes in. So how long are you using it? How many hours are you using it per day? Are you using it for 60 hours? Are you using it for a day or 2 or 3? A week? So that is how that one works. And it's ideal for agriculture, construction, transport, and the manufacturing sector to benefit a lot of SMEs. Then there's lease to own. Lease to own is like the hire purchase or capital lease.
Okay.
Referred to. There, customers lease equipment with the option to own it at the end of the term. You understand?
Yes.
You know, that's a window that can be easily explored. It's good for SMEs too, and long-term and eventual ownership goals. Makes ownership more affordable and structured. You know, we have deferred payment or seasonal payment, a couple of them like that.
Okay.
But what I must say here is that models are adaptable. You can fashion out a model to suit the particular purpose. It could be purpose built. It could be fashioned out. And with the regulatory body ERA now, once we see any window, we can, in tandem with the lessee and lessor, work out something that can be universal. That drives us to the issue of the fact that sooner or later, we will soon come out with a national policy that will affect leasing generally in Nigeria.
All right. Let's discuss how equipment leasing companies can mitigate, the risk associated with leasing equipment, such as theft or damage.
Well, before we talk about the risk, what are the obstacles? What are the obstacles hindering the growth, of leasing in Nigeria? Of course, one of the major obstacles is the risk itself. People are afraid to go into leasing because they don't know what will happen to the equipment finally. If I give out a tractor, for example, to a lessee, and I'm a lessor, and he puts it to use, how do I know how can I account for that tractor? It's a major challenge. If I have a tractor and I lease it out to a company, how do I know where it is at every particular time? If there are issues, how do I go about ensuring that it is recovered? The Equipment Leasing Act, has come to stay and provided for recovery. Recovery is getting back what you have given out. The Equipment Leasing Act and the Equipment Leasing Registration Authority is now out to ensure that there's recovery and there's confidence built in the leasing landscape in Nigeria. Recall that at a time, the insurance industry in Nigeria had these challenges, ticking challenges, but it was addressed by the National Insurance Commission Act that provided for regulation of the insurance industry. That is what ERA has come to do.
Doctor, before we come back to discuss the way to handle these challenges, let's take a short break. This is Frontiers, and the conversation continues in a moment. Welcome back. Now, before we went on break, we were talking about some of the challenges we face when leasing equipment. How can these challenges be addressed?
The challenges can be addressed by basically the government, by concerted effort, by strengthening the legal and institutional framework of the leasing landscape in Nigeria. For now, government have taken steps by the establishment of ERA, by the Equipment Leasing Act, and there is need to support the Equipment Leasing Registration Authority, as it were, so that its mandate for registration and enforceability can be, come to pass. Then there is also the window of ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution, because there is always this delay in court process, and with the legal system now making provisions for ADR, we will strengthen the ADR window and ensure that it's done. Another one is improve access to finance. Improve access to finance, because it is today, exchange rates are very high. If as a lessor I need to acquire equipment for leasing purposes, I need to get enough foreign exchange, because not much we produce in Nigeria. So the cost of equipment procurement are quite enormous. Although this government is coming out with the Nigeria First policy, which will create a window for lessors to acquire equipment at the Nigerian price rate, locally fabricated equipment. We also need to attract long-term institutional investors.
Looking ahead, what are the prospects for the equipment leasing industry in Nigeria?
Prospects for the leasing industry in Nigeria are quite very, very, very enormous. a forward-looking analysis of the leasing sector. Today, if you take statistics, let me start by telling us what's happened in 2024, but that's the immediate past. In 2024, the industry recorded a growth of 23.2% with outstanding leases of 5.16 trillion naira as against 4.19 trillion in 2023. That means that there is a growth between 2023 and 2024 of the leasing sector by 23.2%. That tells you that the potentials of the growth now will be higher. But one thing that we should note is that leasing, the volume of leasing, a contribution to the economy that year was 24.6. Over the decade, please. Over the decade, for 10 years now, 24.6 trillion. So the potentials are quite very high. You know, and with ERA, with the Equipment Leasing Restoration Authority newly established, the growth will be unmatched. It will be unmatched because a lot of attention will be drawn from government to the industry.
So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, educating us on equipment leasing. I wish we could go on and on, but for time, we have to stop here. Thank you so much once again for coming on the program.
Thank you. God bless.
The focus today has been challenges and prospects of equipment leasing in Nigeria. Our guest has been Dr. Emmanuel Mituagan, Director of Planning, Strategy and Coordination, Equipment Leasing Registration Authority. I am Frama Hanyi. Bye for now.